Hello and welcome back for another Torah Tuesday. Today we're continuing our exploration of Genesis. We're in Genesis chapter 3, verses 8 through 19. Last week we considered the conversation between the snake and the woman that called into question God's goodness. The human desire for autonomy resulted in an awareness of their nakedness and a desire to hide from God and from each other. When God confronts the man for hiding, he blames the woman. The woman you put here with me. In fact, he not only blames the woman, but there's an implicit critique of God in his statement. The woman you put here with me, she gave me the fruit and I ate it. When God confronts the woman, she blames the snake. This is the heart of rebellion. Our refusal to own our sin and our propensity to blame other people for it. God's confrontation of the man and the woman is a missed opportunity. They could have repented. They could have owned their sin. God does not show up on the scene in judgment. He shows up seeking them, asking them questions, opening up the possibility of dialogue. And yet they miss that opportunity because they're so busy trying to defend themselves, even though they're both guilty. Because they didn't repent, the naked people and the crafty snake were cursed. We saw last week that the word for naked is arom, the word for crafty is arum, and today we discover that the word for cursed is arur. So there's a word play that continues. The curse is on the naked people who believed the crafty snake. Here's what I find really interesting about these curses. Each curse brings pain and hardship to the very thing we were designed to do. The snake is made the lowest of all the animals. He will eat dust. The snake is told, he will crush your head and you will strike his heel. So there's going to be ongoing adversarial relationship between the humans and the creatures, which is not how God designed our relationship with the created beings to be. Humans are supposed to care for animals and share God's created world with them. The woman will have great pain in conception or pregnancy, you could translate it either way, and childbirth. God had told the first humans to be fruitful and multiply, and now in her attempt to carry out this blessing and this command, the woman will experience great pain. And in fact, the relationship between husband and wife will be fraught with tension. Your desire or longing will be for your husband, and he will dominate you. He will rule over you, which is not the design of Genesis 2, where man and woman, husband and wife, are side by side as partners. That relationship too is fractured by human rebellion. The man, in turn, will experience pain in his labor while farming. The ground will not just easily produce food. It will produce thorns and thistles, and the man will have to fight to get food out of it. So here the relationship between the Adam and the Adamah will be strenuous. God had told Adam and Eve to cultivate the earth and to enjoy its fruitfulness, but now that will be difficult. Here's the most important thing I have to say to you today. This passage of curses given in the wake of human rebellion, this is not where we find biblical teaching on how things should be. It explains how things are because of human rebellion. If we want to see God's vision for what it means to be human, we have to turn our page back to chapter 2 and chapter 1 of Genesis, and we'll have to look ahead to see what Christ accomplishes on the cross and the new creation to which he calls us in the book of Revelation. But chapter 3 does end with one note of mercy. I mentioned last week that God clothes Adam and Eve with garments of skin, presumably animal skin, although there's a range of interpretive possibilities there. God clothes their nakedness not because they need clothes, but because they have this sense of lack that's come from their rebellion. He also, at the end of chapter 3, sends them out of the garden. He banishes them to work the ground from which he had been taken. It says, after he drove the man out, he placed on the east side of the Garden of Eden cherubim and a flaming sword flashing back and forth to guard the way to the tree of life. God does not want these humans to take and eat from the tree of life because it would prolong their agony. They're living fractured lives in a fractured world, and He does not want them to be stuck in that position forever. So rather than risk the possibility that they will perpetuate this brokenness, He sends them out of the garden. It's an act of grace, an exile with a hopeful future. Because the idea is that eventually humans will be invited back into the garden, back into fellowship with God, where they can eat freely from the tree of life. I hope this has been an interesting study for you on Genesis chapter 3. If you have other things that you've noticed in this chapter, I would love to hear about them in the comments below. I always learn a lot from all of you as well. Have a great week.